Come on, it's almost the end of 2021, and I believe that there should be a lot less stigma when it comes to talking about mental health or just openly talking about seeking a therapist and whatnot. And for your information, this is not a sponsored video from BetterHelp. That ad is kind of annoying now I think of it. But anyway, a little bit of backstory here. 2 years ago, I suffered from some tough shit, and I thought I had PTSD, but at that time I couldn't trust anyone. That's why I didn't seek a therapist. And then eventually I ditched my corporate job and then changed my career, and I was back to full-time studying. And I finally started my first therapy session in around October last year. So I want to talk about what happened, what I learned in these almost 10 months of therapy sessions. It happened almost weekly, and at first it was just online because obvious reasons. And then at some point it went back to face-to-face, and I met my therapist for the first time after talking to him for like a few months, which was a bit weird. But then it went back to online because of obvious reasons. And I want to summarize what I learned and what you can apply in your life as well. And now looking back on it, I feel like therapy is just so important and very essential for healthcare students as well, because as I've mentioned many times, you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself first, right? So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Venus and I'm a final year music therapy student in Sydney. Now make sure to follow me on Instagram here, and make sure to hit the subscribe button below so that you won't miss any content about music, mental health, and mindset. So here are the things that I learned from my 10-month therapy journey. The first thing is self-awareness. Yeah, I've mentioned many times, but I feel like I still need to emphasize this point because there is no self-development without self-awareness. Before therapy, I already started journaling and incorporating reflection in my life, but therapy just took it to the next level. And one of the exercises, like homework, that I was supposed to do every single week was to keep a thought record. So as you can see, there are many columns. You have your date, and then you kind of like briefly describe your situation, and then name your emotions and rate your emotions. Like how intense do you feel? Awkward, annoyed, angry, sad, whatever. And then you will describe your thinking patterns, and then you will come up with an alternate thought, like a change of perspective. And then you will rate your belief on that alternate thought. For example, I might be so annoyed about the whole lockdown thingy and like not being able to go to placement and stuff, and I would rate that annoyance for like a 7 out of 10. And the negative or automatic thoughts would be, oh my god, I'm so doomed, I can't go to placement, I can't graduate on time. So that's the whole loop of negative thoughts and patterns. But then the alternate thought might be that, okay, I'm in lockdown, I have more time, I don't need to travel, I can still attend like online placements or online lectures, so it's not too bad, right? I'm saving time on traveling basically. And also the school is helping me to get my hours so that I can graduate on time, so it's not that bad, right? And then I would rate the belief out of 10 as well. And this is like the whole thought record that I was supposed to do almost every single week. And the whole thought record exercise is kind of linked to the CBT triangle, the cognitive behavioral therapy triangle, which means that your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors are all related. So if you can change one of the elements, then you can change the whole loop, basically. That's why it's so important to just name your thought, name your emotions, and try to come up with other things that will change the direction of the loop. Now you will see that I put it in Notion because I try to make it more frictionless so that I can input all my thoughts and feelings whenever I had intense emotions. But that didn't work that well because I struggled to stay consistent with this exercise because sometimes I just got so stuck into my own misery and feelings that I couldn't come up with any alternate thoughts, which is the whole point of the exercise really, but I just couldn't do it consistently. And eventually I just went back to my usual journaling with my own template, but I just tried to be more mindful about what I was putting down and try to spot any triggers or patterns that I had during the day. And here are some interesting facts that I found out after a whole long period of journaling. For example, I found out that no matter how introverted I thought I was, I actually needed social interaction to draw energy and momentum. And also I was always angry a few days before my period, and sometimes I just got pissed off easily without particular reason when I didn't sleep enough, etc. And I can't stress enough how important journaling is in my whole self-awareness improvement journey. So I have a whole long video about my journaling journey here if you fancy giving it a try. I've also included my Notion template there, so you can just copy and start building this healthy habit. And honestly, journaling is just that one thing that helped me improve my self-awareness for like 100 times. And the second thing that I learned from my own personal therapy journey is some grounding techniques. So I will talk about a few technical stuff that you can reference on if you want to. These are all helpful exercises for you to de-stress or to get you out of a panic attack if you are very prone to anxiety and stress. So the first thing that I got introduced with is called a 5-4-3-2-1 mindfulness technique. I'll put the graphic here. So they are all things that you want to use your 5 senses to pay attention to, basically. The first step is to acknowledge 5 things you can see around you. It can be like microphone, camera, my laptop, or the trees outside, and whatnot. So just name 5 things that you can see in your surroundings. And 4 means to acknowledge 4 things that you can touch around you. So it might be the wires, the keyboard, the mouse, my phone. You get the drill. And then you want to acknowledge 3 things that you can hear. For example, I can hear the cars, someone doing renovation outside, and whatever. And the next step is to acknowledge 2 things that you can smell. I can smell coffee and I can smell spring air, if you know what I mean. And the last step is to acknowledge 1 thing that you can taste. It might be your coffee, I don't know. So this is like a coping technique for anxiety or like panic attacks. Because when you're worried or you are depressed, you are not really in the moment. You're like getting caught up in your head, thinking about the future or the past. That's why by focusing on your 5 senses, you can immediately realign your body and your mind so that you focus on the present moment, you focus on what you can actually feel and touch, and know that you're not in physical danger. It's just your brain signaling that you're doing something maybe for the first time, or you're experiencing something that are close to like emotional danger. For example, receiving a bad piece of news, like coping with uncertainties, or before a job interview, that kind of feelings. You want to calm yourself down and realign your body and mind. Know that you are not in actual danger, and you can just take some deep breaths to have some anchor in your life, basically. I kind of practice this exercise whenever I feel really stressed. Nowadays, I don't use this technique often because I'm not always in that kind of like crisis situation. But there were many times during therapy sessions that I just cried non-stop, and that was the time when I actually needed to calm down, to focus on what I can sense, and then to just focus on my breathing as well and calm myself down. So this one is a helpful technique for me. And the second grounding technique is called a progressive muscle relaxation. So it's claimed to be effective in managing your stress and anxiety. And what you want to do is that while you are breathing in, you want to contract one muscle group. For example, I want to just put all my fists together really tight, hold for 5 to 10 seconds, and then exhale while you release the tension suddenly. And you can do it like from head to toe or the other way around. And just to have like 10 to 20 seconds in between to relax. And while you are releasing the tension, you want to try to focus on the changes that you feel within the muscle group. I personally found it so weird to have like my fists or just everything else tightened together. But people often use this in like a body scan mindfulness technique. So I reckon it might be useful for some people, but I personally just don't fancy it. And the last grounding technique is meditation. Now, I've tried most free meditation apps, Headspace, Smiling Mind, Insight Timer, and now I mostly stick to Center because I'm a member. But I've come a long way with meditation. At first, I didn't believe it at all. I can't focus, I can't sit still. But as you know, I'm also an overthinker, and in times of stress and anxiety, it's really hard for me to think clearly and just to shut up my brain or get some quality sleep. That's why I thought I might give meditation a try. But then it just didn't work because I just can't empty my mind. And then I asked myself, where do I get energy and what brings me joy? And the answer is simple. When I'm making music, when I'm working out, and when I'm reading fictions. And then I realized they all share a common point. I'm fully immersed in the whole experience when I'm doing things that bring me joy and energy. I'm not distracted by my thoughts, my worries, or stress. I'm just being there and doing my own thing. And that brings me to my point. I think we don't need to complicate meditation. For me, it's just to unplug. For those who are like me who can't sit still or focus, this is a solution for you. You don't need to find a mountain and hide and think of nothing for 3 days. Just unplug, disengage from your messy thoughts and busy doing. Just be. In fact, if you need more resources and guidance on that, I have incorporated all the techniques I learned in therapy into my handpan guided meditation soundtracks. Brand new tracks. I won't ask you to sit still and think of nothing. In fact, it's going to be an exciting journey. I'm going to invite you to build your own private island, which is a space for you, a safe space for you to de-stress, reset, refocus. Check out the link in the description box below for more information where you can also preview the 5 soundtracks. As you know, I love my handpan, and it's just my honor to be able to do some guided meditations for you so that you can experience more calmness and peace in your life. And we all know that life is full of chaos and uncertainties. It's so important that we have some anchor that we can always go back to. And here is the last lesson I learned from my personal therapy, which is decision making, like a pros and cons analysis. It is a clear, rational decision-making process for every situation. Now, there is no sequence to what I've just talked about for the 3 lessons that I learned, but I would think that self-awareness and a clear mind help with decision-making. After all, we don't want to make rash decisions that we would regret later on. So, I've once done this exercise with my therapist for an hour. First of all, you want to state your situation. What are you going through right now? What is the problem? And then you want to lay out all the options, regardless of the possibilities, just to lay them all out. And then you want to write the possible outcomes for all the options that you just listed. And then you would rate each option and write down all the advantages and disadvantages. Then you can rate how likely you would do it, and whether your guts tell you to proceed or not. And the last step is to pick the option that looks the most sensible and feasible for you. So the whole point of doing this exercise is that your therapist is actually merely guiding you, because in most cases you already had the answer within you, you just don't want to admit it. You are always in control, you can decide what you want to do. But you just need to see some sense, and it's helpful for me because it's such a visual exercise to lay down all the options so that I can see clearly, see all the outcomes and the next step. And many times I catch myself replaying certain situations in my mind or thinking about the what ifs in my decision making. It's not helpful or productive. Having a clear thought process or a decision-making system would help you solve many problems in life, thus to reduce your headaches. If you need extra prompts, here are some. What's the worst case scenario? Is it a life or death situation? What can I do now to minimize the negative impact? What is the plan to get closer to what I want? What habits or skills do I need to have? Believe it or not, these are the questions that I ask myself a million times, from pivoting my career, whether to start a business, or to things like whether I should sacrifice a few hours of sleep to attend that conference. I use this thought process. It's super helpful. So here are the 3 biggest lessons that I learned from my 10 months of therapy journey. Is there anything that you would like to know more about? Leave a comment below or just DM me on Instagram. Again, check out the website in the description box below for some handpan guided meditation soundtracks that I created for different situations. Make the last quarter of your 2021 your best ever. Claim your peace of mind, increase your self-awareness, and practice gratitude, and learn how to enjoy life more today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.